First question to you, and I hope you can all give a very brief impulse statement here. And I'll also put the Slido QA up so audience have an opportunity to present questions to us. What do you consider the potentially most disruptive technology or event? I think I'm going to say event, so that could be technology, it could be political, scientifically, that would have a major impact on our future as regulators, but also the future of drug development. And I'll start turning to my boss, Emer.
Well, thank you very much, Stefan. And I think we've heard some wonderful dreams, past and future demands, and actually it's all about the people. I think these have been very consistent messages. If I look at what I think are the disruptors, the things that we need to take into account if we're going to imagine the future of regulation, I would focus on three things. Artificial intelligence, data, and then I wanted to add geopolitics, not really because of geopolitics, but because of trust and trust in science, and I see them quite related. So first of all, I think we have a huge responsibility to really use artificial intelligence in the best possible way to make our lives better so that products can reach patients better. And we have to do it responsibly. And that's a challenge. It's a disruptor, but it's an opportunity. Data. If data is the new oil, we need to know how to make it flow. I think we're at the cusp of an amazing innovation in Europe now with the European health data space. This, for the first time, allows us access to electronic health records. And we can learn so much about that, but we have to do it well. It will disrupt the way we work. It will make us think differently. And then, of course, we never know what's around the corner. And I think this is one thing that I've learned from my 30 years. We never know what's around the corner. So as soon as you think you've got a plan or a strategy, something changes. So you have to expect the unexpected. And here it is about how we use the current geopolitical context to ensure that trust in science remains paramount.
Thank you, Emer. Jan, can I turn to you?
Yes, so I will mention also.
We need to turn it on. Okay, super. Thanks.
I will mention also AI with its exponential capacities and field of users. Just to mention two examples relevant for us, the use of AI obviously in clinical trials all along the life cycle, but also to identify more repurposing of medicines or of assets which have been abandoned. The example also of the use of AI to generate patient preferences, then being curated by patient advocate. And there is a pilot called Collaborare between the European Medicines Agency and EURDES, for instance, in the field of rare diseases. The second I'd like to mention is scientific advancement, but focusing particularly on the extremely rare disease. So the 4,000 rare disease, which are this long tail of diseases affecting less than 1 in a million in the population. And here, obviously, we can think of many technologies coming up, the mRNA, the CAR-T therapy, etc. But there is one that I would like to single out, which is gene editing. And sickle cell anemia, obviously, is now has gene editing approved. But there is also a recent outcome breakthrough in the US on a very rare disease called CPS1 deficiency, which shows that there is shortcuts that can be taken on all the development process, something that was taking before 7-9 years, taking less than a year, and requiring here a lot of flexibility, adaptation, while keeping the robustness all along. And this type of technology is cheaper, maybe really transformative. So I'm mentioning this one, but I'm sure others will come in, and we need to see how we will adapt as a regulatory system also to this treatment, which is going to be not more than personalized, individualized, or for very few patients. And here, obviously, the European added value will be maximum one time again.
Well, difficult to add things because what Emer and Ian said are, of course, I agree. To try to be very short and specific answering your question, what will be the most disruptive thing? I think will be inertia. The most disruptive will be inertia because, as Emer said, you don't know what is next, but we know that already on the horizon there are a few things. So if Europe, I'm talking about Europe, word is too big for me.
That's how it is.
And I'm aging. For Europe will be something will be left from US, something will be taken from others, mostly in Asia. Science, the so-called Western science will be taken by others. Meanwhile, we are challenging our own science and history. Others will benefit of this, China mostly. So the only real disruptive thing in a negative way for us will be inertia. If we don't act fast, coordinating now, we abandon the liturgy that we have to take decision in Europe, that will be really disruptive.
Thank you. I think that we are facing many potential disruptive features around us, and not all of them come from the science and the technology, also from the society. And I think that we are living in a moment where the expectations and the relationship between society and institutions is changing. And we have to bear in mind this because we can't take for granted the confidence in science or the reliance on institutions. And we have to win them over every day. Building confidence takes time, but losing confidence is something sharp and acute. So we have not been so challenged ever before, I think. And this will change, and we have to adapt to this continuous scrutiny and to optimize how we connect with the society and communicate our work. But looking at the scientific side, the obvious reason is everything related with data, because we are fascinated by data and artificial intelligence. So I guess clinical evidence and the way we generate clinical evidence since the very beginning, since the preclinical and also the clinical research will change sharply. But not only changes will come from data. I am seeing very inspiring and promising advances in the manufacturing setting. Just an example, 3 days ago, Nature Chemistry published a report, probably you have seen it referenced in the media, where some authors and chemists were able to transform PET bottles into paracetamol using an engineered metabolism via Escherichia coli. So we are seeing things unimaginable a few years ago, or genome editing. Less than 1 month ago, an American hospital published the first case of in vivo editing genome to treat an newborn with a rare disease affecting the cycle of urea, and how this editor, vehicled by a nanoparticle, was able to decrease the number of hyperammonia crises, and for a disease with more than 50% of lethality, the patient is under control. So I think we are going to see from genome editing things that we can only imagine. And for novel manufacturing, also very promising advances.
So many of you mentioned AI. I think that was the hottest topic, and I had a pre-call with all of you, and I think none of you were speaking against AI as something that would be disruptive. Also, the distrust in science is a big challenge. And I actually have a quite interesting question here online, which covers those two areas. Could AI work against the best interest of patients and science by making public unsure what is true and what isn't true? Do we have a chat? And what could we as regulators do there, if we can do anything? Who wants to pick that up?
I think Jan should. But it's about the patients. I think one of our challenges will always be how we reconcile what we do with the eye with patient trust, and how we ensure that we keep the safeguards in place. Because anything is possible. I think anything is possible. But we are medicines regulators, and our job is to do the right thing. Now, I always say this, and people look at me and say, well, what is the right thing? And sometimes we don't know what the right thing is. But together, I think we will figure it out. So I think there are challenges. I think we're right to have concerns. I think we're right to look at everything. But if we don't do something, and I go back to Guido's point, inertia is worse.
I agree, and in fact, I mentioned it rapidly in my speech earlier. This trust issue is, as you said, it's important, but it's very fragile. And I don't think it's a topic for the future. It's already a topic of today, and EMA is already working on social networks, for instance. But we can see that here also there is a conjunction between technologies, yes, but also the values in society and the political level. Look at the US, how in only a few weeks the FDA has been undermined, and how the panel of scientists on vaccine has been changed in order to give a certain direction. So just for the pleasure of the discussion with Guido here, I agree with the inertia. I think we do share that and that concern and the need for strategic alignment. On the other hand, what I observe is that the structure of Europe somehow offers less political exposure in the changes like in the US. And that provides maybe some resilience and robustness and predictability in a system that maybe we can take pride of and play more with than what we see today in the US. We cannot be happy about what's happening in the US. I think we're all very sad and concerned, but I see the opportunities for Europe in a moment where we've lost some time, some leadership. And thanks to colleagues like yourself, Madame, playing a lead role on the EU Clinical Trial Act EU and the European Medicine Agency network, that's ideal. That's exactly what we need to seize that moment, to really work strongly and without any preconceived ideas to make Europe more attractive and competitive on clinical trials, because that's the game for the future and that's what the patients really need.
No, a quick comment, short answer to AI can be possibly detrimental for patient, of course, as any other novelty. Can be good or bad as long as you use for good or for bad. I think we have guns to protect us, to protect patients. I think in Europe, one strength we still have and we should maintain is a high level of academia, high-level academicians, and still a very diffuse sense of ethics and a sense of public health. Public health is still high in our mind. That's, I think, is a good shield that even with inertia for a while will remain. If we also take action, probably on that domain, we will have a lot of more chances than others.
I don't think I can add anything new. I think that we have to keep the confidence that the society have put on us, being excellent on our work on responding to their needs. And the uptake of AI is just another tool. Experimentation is kept under control in sandboxes, but we don't uptake these new methodologies or tools without carefully assessing the benefit risk. That's our business, assessing benefit risk.
And we need to be careful communicating that this is what we do also when it comes to AI, I guess. I think that's was covered in that question. So many of you, and especially you, Guido, in your presentation, stressed the importance of people and the staff at the agency. And there is actually an interesting question here. Maybe I can combine two of them. One of these, what are the biggest lessons from the past that you can relate to people working for the future? And the other one is, new generations of staff are joining the agency and the network. Now I lost it. It's on screen, good, yeah. What is your message to those joining the agency and the network being exposed to this very complex and fascinating world for the first time? So lessons from the past, and how are we going to introduce the new generation to our fascinating world? Would you like to go first, Ima? You're looking at me like you want to go first.
No, I wanted to go second,
Okay,
actually.
so we are having Guido go first? Yeah.
Well, whatever I learned is useless now. But yeah, what I learned is that you have to involve people and to listen and to squeeze out ideas from them. Then you might play fair or unfair and say that the idea was yours, but the idea, you can't generate idea in isolation. So involvement of people, and sometimes the people hands-on in some process gives you more the key element for fixing things. I think this is the lesson I learned. And then having a consensus in the decision helps, but not go too much, because you will never have everybody convinced. And you have to take a decision at some time. And you do it wrong, so it's your fault. But you are paid for it.
Ima.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about, I wanted to give the message to new staff, new generations joining the agency and the network. And the answer is almost in the question. This is a complex and fascinating world. It is extremely exciting. I don't think people realize how exciting it is and what a role you can play. You can change people's lives. This is something we can do together. We can imagine the future. We can make it happen. And the only way we can do that is by joining together, but also by getting ideas from new generations of staff who have much different ideas to what I have. I'm back in the last century. I want to learn from new people, but I want you to know that this is exciting. This is somewhere where you can make a difference, and we do.
Anything you want to add to that from a network perspective, Maria?
I echo every word Emer said. I think this is a fascinating word. Where can you be more?
Full agreement across the
full
network
agreement.
here. That's
I
good to
only
see.
add a plea to younger generations. I know that we are going through very difficult times, that we feel threat for many different sides, that many young people feel they don't have the same opportunities that we had in the past. So they have probably a shorter view, and they don't engage for long term with anything, with jobs, with cities, and I would invite them to have a longer view. Yeah, because don't believe that we are so challenged, that we are going through the most difficult times. I could take here my parents, and you would be surprised of what are worst times. So please have a long view, look towards the future, and stay longer in your institutions, because that's the way to get the most of your colleagues and of your work and of your tax.
So, so before closing, I think I will give you the last word, Jan, as the patient representative. Any guidance, maybe for patient representatives, either joining the agency or joining the network as patient representatives? It looks like we in the future will have even more patient engagement in our decision-making process. So what's your guidance to those?
If it goes to the trilogue, as I say,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
it goes through. Yes, I think we've learned that to address a lot of the challenges, I mentioned thalidomide, but we could mention other parts of work. There is working groups on new methodologies, for instance, statistical methodologies and use of Bayesian methods. It sounds very dry, but in fact, getting the patient representative involved in understanding the science, understanding technology, understanding the methodologies is essential, because they are the intermediate with part of the society, and that's part of building the trust. To address the challenges we've been saying, positive and negative, but this network of stakeholders that the EMA has developed, I think is fantastic. The network of experts, the network of patients' organization, of consumers, of healthcare professional associations. And we need to focus on that and allocate the proper resources, because that's what we're going to need to address a lot of the confusion and on fake news and undermining of the trust into institutions and into the science. And we know that. But on the other hand, to speak to the young fellows joining the networks, I would really emphasize on what you just said, is that in my experience as a patient advocate, always look long-term, look 20 years. Sometimes people look at you like a fool, but that's the only way to think in our area, is 20 years, 10 years. But at the same time, always focus on making little or big things, so that every week, every month, every year, you look back and you say, we did it. We made that progress, we obtained it. And then you feel empowered in moving toward your bigger vision. And that's what we need, to get more of these colleagues on that page, and to trust that making a change is possible, and that there is no fate in accepting all the sadness and difficulties in the geopolitical, particularly situation we are, but that we're part of the change that we want to see.
Many thanks. Well said. So by this, I will thank you, Maria, Emer, Jan, Guido, for being part of this panel discussion.